Hello everyone, my name's Cliff and welcome back to my channel. This is Cliff's Dark Gems. Today I'm going to be giving a reading update for the third week of the GarbAugust month, and I'm going to be giving a shout out to an excellent channel that I found out about last night. Stay tuned. Okay everyone, so before we go into the reading that I've done this week, I'd like to just quickly give a shout out to a channel I discovered last night. Really excellent channel, and that's Alex from Frank Fiction. Is it Frank Fiction rather? Alex has got 70 subscribers. She's done 24 videos, and from what I see she's been on for 8 months. And I really enjoyed the video I watched from her last night, so check her out, you might be surprised. Okay, let's get into the 3 books that I've been reading this week. Now, I want to get the disappointing one out the way first. This is an animal attack novel called Alligator. Now, I was really disappointed with this particular novel. It is about supposedly a giant killer alligator in the Florida swamplands, in the Everglades, and about these men that try to hunt it down. A little bit like Jaws, but nothing like Jaws in my opinion. It really focuses on 2 characters. You got this one very rich, a millionaire, and he's a complete arsehole businessman, corporate type, and he's got all these arse kissers and all these yes men around him. And the other one's equally unlikable field guide who takes him out into the Everglades to hunt for this alligator. Now, the biggest problem I had with this book was that from looking at the cover, it is supposedly about an alligator. And yet, the only glimpses you get of this alligator are right at the beginning of the story, which was actually the first chapter was pretty brilliant. And then maybe towards the end. What you got in between there is really quite a mess. The characters, as I said, they're completely unlikable. The broader set of characters as well, there's way too much interest in their backstory, and really I wasn't invested in any of them, absolutely none of them, and if they were killed off, that was absolutely fine with me. And I think the author also tries too hard to create the setting and make it quite rich, but the story is just, the writing in the prose is just a little bit overdone for my tastes, and also a little bit clunky and all over the place. The story I had no interest in, really. There were moments that I quite enjoyed. As I said, the opening, the first paragraph is nice. But after that, for a lot of the book I just glazed over. And I tried really hard to get into it, and at times I actually felt like I might just DNF it. But I wanted to see how it finished, and even the ending for me was a little bit of a letdown. So yeah, I gave this 2 out of 5 on Goodreads, which is very rare for me, but for me it was a big disappointment. Okay, next up we got The Omen by David Seltzer. Now this is a novelization. It's about Jeremy Thorne, who is a US Senator in England, and his wife Catherine. And at the beginning of the novel we find Jeremy Thorne flying into his wife who's pregnant, and they're expecting a child. Now this is 3rd or 4th time. Each time has been a failure, and Jeremy knows that if they do not get a child this time, that his wife is going to sink into depression. That has been a very difficult time, and that a child will make all the difference in the world. He arrives at the hospital and finds out that he had a baby boy, but the baby died. And the doctors and the nurses basically say to him, at the same time as his child was born, another child was born that looked almost the same as his child, and a little boy, and the mother died at birth. The child has no family, no relatives, and maybe it would be in the best interest for his wife if he adopted the child without the wife knowing, because she's out cold. and against his better judgment he decides that this is the right thing to do, and so they take home their little boy Damien. Now this is an absolutely thrilling, tense, exciting novel, obviously based on the movie with Gregory Peck, and it was a 5-star read for me. It was a reread for me, and I actually enjoyed it more the second time. As I said, it is absolutely tense. There's some moments of real horror, and what I liked about the novel is that it actually expands a bit on the movie. It's a real classic, so you get a deeper feel for the characters, you get a deeper feel for the background and the whole demonic thing, and a little bit of the kind of occult, and the way that he writes. Very crisp prose, gorgeously written, and it just draws you into the story. A couple of interesting things about the author David Seltzer is that he was actually the screenwriter for the Omen, the movie, and he also contributed to the, I think it was 1971 musical Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, but he was uncredited. I think he put in about 30% of the work, but Roald Dahl got all the credit, and I think that's a little bit unfair, don't you? He also made a contribution to Bird on the Wire with Mel Gibson and Goldie Hawn, which I quite enjoyed. So yeah, he was quite busy in film and in books. Okay, next up we have a book that I've been wanting to read for a long time, but I've never been able to find it in the country, and I've never been able to find it on my Kindle either. It's one of those books where it's just not available from Amazon. And that is Off Season by Jack Ketchum. Now last night I looked at one of Michael Wurtenberg's videos on the most scary books he's ever read, and he recommended Off Season. And when I commented on his video, he was very kind to provide a link to the book, sort of like an online library. And so what did I do? I stayed up till 3 o'clock in the morning. I couldn't put it down, and I finished Off Season by Jack Ketchum. Now I have to say, let me just briefly tell you what it's about. The plot's very simple. It's this editor, a New York editor, his sister and some friends go and stay in this lonely cabin in this town called Dead River for vacation. Unfortunately for them, at Dead River, hiding away in the rocks, there's also a family of inbred, murderous cannibals who take note of the fact that these people have arrived and start making plans for them. I have to say to you all, without a shadow of a doubt, that this is the most deeply disturbing, frightening, terrifying, messed up thing that I've ever read in my life, and yet I loved it and I couldn't put it down. Why is that, you say? Well, it was beautifully written. The build-up was a bit slow, but when shit hits the fan, I could not take my eyes away from what was happening. You really feel for these characters, you feel that they're going through, and it's really no holds barred violence and depravity. I haven't read anything like it since, and really, yeah, it's not for everyone. The graphic nature of the violence and the sexuality and what's happening is so many trigger warnings, it's just too many to mention. It is not for anyone with a faint heart, but it does really show what happens when everything that makes us human is stripped away. And it also has this thing about just a lack of control, that these sort of things can happen to people at any time. Yeah, you don't watch your step, something bad can happen. But it was a powerful novel, as I say, very graphic. Some of the things that he shows you, a little bit like Clive Barker, in that he shows you the demons, he shows you the bad stuff, but this was far worse. But still powerful and terrifying, and it just drew me in. I just had to keep turning those pages until I got to the end. That is Off Season by Jack Ketchum. Just some interesting things about Jack Ketchum before we finish off. His real name was Dallas Mayer, and he worked numerous jobs before he actually started writing longer novels. He was an English teacher, he was an actor, he was a literary agent, and he also wrote numerous best-selling short fiction as well. Now, Off Season is his debut novel. There's a follow-up to it as well, which I want to read now, called Offspring, which apparently is also hectic, but just adds a bit more sort of thematic stuff in there. And I also want to pick up many of his other novels. I think the only one that I'm afraid of is The Girl Next Door, because apparently that just takes disturbing to a completely different level, very difficult to get through. But I don't know, after Off Season, I was kind of traumatized when I finished reading that book. Thinking about some of the scenes, thinking about what happens to some of these people. Kind of sad, because you actually care for these characters and you feel for what's happening for them. And another interesting thing about the novel actually is that you're seeing it from different points of view. So it's not just these New Yorkers that are suffering at the hands of this family, but you also see it from the cannibal point of view, and that they're born that way. It's absolutely bizarre, obviously, the way that they live and the way they do things, but it's just so interesting that it's those two different points of view for me. Okay everyone, so that's my reading wrap up. I have started reading a Stephen King book now, and I'm moving into the last week of GarbAugust, so there's a couple of books I'm going to get through, but I really hope you enjoyed that. Please like and subscribe if you enjoy my content, and comment down in the dark spaces down below, and take care of yourselves, keep those pages turning, and cheers.